What famous TV shows that everyone is talking about but you watched one episode and knocked the F out?
At the time, Shameless. I can see why people liked it, but coming from a family similar to that, I couldn't find it entertaining. I either had or had dealt with people that reminded of the characters and found myself disliking all of them.
I just found every single character incredibly dislikable tbh.
Stranger Things. Memberberry is the show.
As a Gen X guy who would have been within a year of Mike's age within the series, and played, and still plays, D&D when Mike did, and saw all the 80s movies that Stranger Things pulls from, it absolutely plays like a love letter to the pop culture I grew up on, and I don't really know if its cross-generational appeal is as strong as its sense of nostalgia. That said, I watched 2 seasons and I was fine with not seeing any more, because to me the end of S2 was an ending, and making more felt like it was milking something that was played out.
Peaky Blinders.
This was me. I watched the first episode on like 3 separate occasions. I seemed to keep reaching for my phone out of lack of interest and missing the point. Finally, I sat down and committed myself to the first 3 episodes, and I was hooked. Thoroughly enjoyed it.
Most sitcoms. The only one that I liked was Superstore, and I only watched 3 seasons before the plotlines became too similar and boring. I brute forced my way through the last season of Superstore, just because I wanted to tick it off my list, but my god did it drag.
Friends and the Big Bang Theory. Just can't watch it, I die inside from the laughing tracks and unfunniness.
That's interesting because Friends was filmed almost entirely in front of a studio audience. You're almost certainly hearing actual reactions. Only a few scenes outside of the studio sets don't have an audience.
Curb Your Enthusiasm. At the time, it was just miserable watching people be terrible to each other.
Yada Yada Sunny in Philadelphia. I couldn't even watch the whole first episode. I do not like it.
I like it, but I can absolutely see why others wouldn't. I was unsure about it for the first couple of episodes, until I realized that none of the gang are meant to be redeemable or nice. They are all awful.
Schitt's Creek.
The Office. La Brea. I cannot believe this show got renewed for 2, and now a 3 season. Someone literally said, hey, let's write Lost, but with a giant hole in Los Angeles and further time travel.
Lost? Back in the day. Atrocious acting.
They're not really relevant anymore, but in their time of popularity I attempted Arrow and The Flash as I had several friends who spoke highly of them, and I am also a DC fanboy. What I found was low-budget, cheesy, poorly written shows that seemed to pander to the YA audience.
I watched 1 episode of Game of Thrones, and came to the conclusion it would be like Lost, a watercolor show that survives on what will happen next and won't be able to stick the landing. Called it.
Kind of fair, but really the reason the ending faltered was that the writers for the TV show ran out of material from the books. I think if the series was actually fully written they could have made the series dope start to finish. The show is also still awesome for the first few seasons to rewatch as a big fan of the books. It's just a shame that GRRM seems to have no interest in finishing the books, sad face.
House of Cards. I think Kevin Spacey's character broke a dog's neck in the first few minutes of episode 1, and I was like, we're done here.
Girls, Shameless, and House of the Dragon.
The Office. Didn't laugh once. I've seen random episodes after to give it another shot, and I just can't get through it.
Euphoria. Just couldn't do it. If I want to be depressed and hate humanity, I'll watch Fox News. IDKY this is so low in the thread. I usually give shows a fair 4 to 5 episodes but couldn't for the life of me watch Euphoria after the first episode. We didn't even make it to the end of the first episode. It did remind me that my BF is a good person, but I think it scarred the poor guy.
I'll accept that the writing is good 80 times. They can absolutely make compelling storylines. The issue is with the actually legitimately over-the-top can't stop won't stop ceaseless, grimy just like teens these days, drugs sex and more drugs and sex vibe. Look, I understand having a father that secretly has sex with transvestites and other victims might shape one's mind not in an ideal manner. But what was that one scene of that one guy walking through a changing room and staring at dicks? It's been a little while and I wasn't entirely sober watching. Regardless, I remember like a 15-second pan shot of dicks of supposed 17 to 18-year-old men. All the while Zendaya, I think, narrates about just how much this one guy just really hated looking at dicks. I mean, like, geez, he sure does not like staring at penis. How many dudes out there, first of all, still change in changing rooms butt-ass naked hanging dong among all the other dudes, also butt-ass naked hanging dong, and second of all, think this hard about how much they dislike looking at penis? My friend later clarified to me that it was apparently hinting at how this one guy was actually possibly closeted. Makes sense. Doesn't explain the requirement of a 15-second zoom pan cut-to-cut shot montage of locker room cock.
I made it through the first few episodes, but it all seemed cringy and exploitative. I might have felt different if I was closer to that age bracket, but it's just not for me. If you want a much better, funnier, and less cringy exploration of similar issues, the first 2 seasons of Skins UK was brilliant.
Entourage. Cringy douchebags.
Tiger King didn't make it 10 minutes. As soon as they dragged that baby tiger across the stage, I turned it off.
The Boys. The violence I could handle, all the sexual assault stuff I could not.
I still love the show, but it has its moments that make me really disgusted.
Just felt like it was trying to be edgy as an end in itself. I lasted more than an episode before noping out, but less than a season.
Schitt's Creek, I even tried twice.
Lost. I don't know how, I just found it so incredibly boring. Everything I read about it makes it seem like a dream show for me, but IDK, I just couldn't care less. I will definitely give it another go at some point.
Succession. I expect I'm not the first to say so. What a bunch of bellends. You're not supposed to think they're good people, nor are you supposed to root for them. But it's also got some of the best writing on television. Can't knock you for not personally liking it though.
Rings of Power.
Wednesday.
I was looking forward to Wednesday. I love the Addams Family. I watched episode 1 with growing horror, and not the good kind. My friend convinced me to watch the rest that all my issues get dealt with. No, they didn't. And I regret watching the whole season. Arrested Development. I don't find it that funny. This one hurts, and maybe it's just one of those you had to be there type sitcoms, and it hasn't aged well. I haven't watched in a long time, and I heard the 2 newer seasons they did were terrible. But back in 2006, or whenever it was at its peak, I had never felt that way about a comedy, and I still haven't since. I love It's Always Sunny, The Office, etc., but nothing has touched AD. The cast was perfection. The intertwining storylines. The frequent callbacks. The hidden jokes, Tobias blue handprints all over the walls, etc. Every other show I've seen listed in this thread I might not agree with, but I can at least understand not liking them. But I will die on this hill that Arrested Development, first seasons, was the most perfect comedy ever made. It was just unrelenting. It didn't follow the traditional American sitcom style, which was set up, build up to joke, laugh track. It was just joke in the background, that's actually 2 jokes, and will become another joke 2 episodes down the line, and so on. It's okay that you don't like Arrested Development, but I'm also sorry you never got to experience what I experienced with it. ADS 1-3 holds up. Unpopular opinion, but the Mr. F. season story remains one of the most absurdly funny story arcs I've ever seen on TV.
The Vampire Diaries.
I've definitely watched worse. But I've definitely watched much better.
Easily The Big Bang Theory. Shit was ass.
Game of Thrones.
It's Always Sunshine in Philadelphia. Tried it twice. Last time I forced myself through the first 4 episodes, but couldn't handle the 5th.
The Big Bang Theory. Hard pass.
The Office US version. I just don't find it funny or interesting.